much in between, things we've never seen. You're a mirage that my mind can't see through. Are you here with me? One day we can see. And all my life, unbroken ways, but I know that time makes ways. But I know that time makes ways. And all my life, unbroken ways, but I know that time makes ways. But I know that time makes ways. Yeah, I know that time makes ways. All my life, unbroken ways, but I know that time makes ways. But I know that time makes ways. And will my life be there one day? All I know is frozen waves, but I'm hoping time makes ways. I'm holding on to the image of you, live from far away, information highway. You're a mirage that my mind will cling to. Though you're far away, we can make a way. All my life, unbroken ways, but I know that time makes ways. Yeah, I know that time makes ways.
Tries to hold on to the bottom. Here comes Gisette. They make contact. They touch once, twice, 3 times.
Foul trouble! Oh, no, Rocky into the wall. Big crash front straightaway. Huge crash coming into the tri-oval. No, Rocky up and into the air. They're beating and banging. Burn on the bottom. Cosman up top. Cosman, I think. No, Breyer by 1/1000th of a second. Joseph, no! At the line, Thunhorse pulls the win out at the stripe. Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Get your foot there. He got it. He's got it. He's got it. The canvas is going to win.
As the seasons rack up, every series begins to build traditions. And in the case of Autobahn, they always kick things off here at Daytona to start the season. But this historic circuit has quite the allure for sports car drivers, and a win here will be extra special. Let's see who adds this one to their W column today as we get ready to watch round one of the Autobahn Sports Car Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on FTF.gg. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Michael Johnson and Bill Soup Zahn, and behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson. Michael, if you're going to win a sports car race, Daytona's got to be high up on that list.
Well, that is quite the understatement. If you don't know Daytona and you're a sports car racer, you're not a sports car racer. This is in everybody's top two. Top two, if you're international, number one is typically going to be Le Mans, and number two is here. If you're just staying in the States, this is absolutely number one. Everybody wants to race Daytona because it is so iconic. It's been around forever, and it is actually a lot of fun to race this track.
Always seems to put on a good show. We're in the last few seconds here of qualifying. Drivers basically finishing up their hot laps, but they have set the grid for our three classes here today. And if you're unfamiliar with this series, of course, they have the prototypes, the GT Pro, and the GT Am. So two different classes of cars, but three different classes total that will be racing over 90 minutes today. And the big thing, Soup, is the fact that, well, there's going to be a lot of those cars out there. It is a full field of 60. I got to think it is going to be frantic.
There would have been more. There were drivers that asked to get in and they came too late. So we're going to see some new names down the road in round two, but that's why God made drop weeks. They allowed two, so the drivers that were 61, 62, 63 didn't get in. No worries. We'll be able to catch you up on next round. You know, Joe, we've been doing this for a while, and it's great to be back with Autobahn. We started them way back. This series has been around for a long time. I think Clinton was still in the White House when we started doing this, and it's nice to see some of the names are still up there that we've come to know over season after season after season.
Absolutely. Well, let's go through that starting grid and up with the prototypes. It is going to be Jeffrey Ooms on the pole. You've got Paul Darling starting to his outside with Paul Gibson in third, and then Billy Smith will be P4. Nathan Olson starts from fifth as Carter Kundinger will be in P6. Then it is Robert Tinsey in the seventh position, flanked by Vance Bow. Nikhil Kopkar will be in the ninth spot, and then you've got Josh Wolf rounding out your top 10. Dan Neese will be in 11th with Mo Islam in the 12th spot. Dominic Dornenberg in P13, and Leif Peterson starts from 14th today. Josh Lane is in the 15th spot. Last two in that class is going to be Justin Kirby in 16th, and Chris Sherburne, Michael, will start from 17th.
Looking at the top end of the GT field, we've got Cameron Bidwell leading them off from the pole position. Alongside him is going to be Ross Booth with David Shutt bringing up that next row. And then Jesse Lyon with Robert Cast and Johan Shirazi on the next row. Nathan Ju and Ryan Robertson. I almost said Robert Ryanson. That would be an odd name. Our first amateur in the field, an amateur not by any stretch of the imagination, meaning they're not good, because if you're this far up, holy cow, you're really cruising. That's Robert Rattray. We've got Ryan Kerr next to him, along with Mitchell Johnson, no relationship. Joey Atterbury, old teammate of mine. And then we have Eric Thomas in the next row, alongside Bradley Haley. And then we start getting into more of our AM field with Scott Angelo and Nick Davis. Young Park, alongside Ryan Washleski, J.R. Gregory, and Trent Brown on the next row with Patrick McDaniel, Franco Margarella, and then our next row is going to be Ian Simon, good racer there. I've raced a lot with Ian. He will be alongside Jimbo Pfeiffer, Corey Ensing alongside Paul Slavonic. Then we have Mark Kedrowski with Sheldon Rosenbaum, Luke Schmitz, James Stacy, Shane Hunter, Charles Dick, and David Perry. I believe he's going to be our first or second Ferrari in the field. Then we've got Dale Green, Jason Iverson, John Ulmer, Chad Nobles, Dean Kerr, Andrew Lunsford, Boyd Payne, William Marsala, David Stevenson, Jake Hickson. And alongside Jake is going to be, or is that the last one? I think that Jake is actually
60.
our last one. There we go. A lot of names to go through.
Nice job, but you need combat pay for getting through that one. How about a tip of the hat, car number 911, the only McLaren out there. That's Ryan Waschelski in that machine. We'll keep an eye on that. Porsche heavy, Joe.
Yeah, it seems like up at the top of the GTs, it is mainly Porsches at the front. The highest driver that is not a Porsche is, it looks like Bradley Haley starting 14th. That's overall in the GTs. I think that's going to be 13th in the pro class, actually, with Robert Rattray really outperforming up there in that amateur class. You'll be watching out on the screen with the pros being red and the amateurs being green. So if you're curious how to keep track of them on our timing tower, just watch out for that. And last of our ticker is coming down. Then the Porsche pace car will release them, and they will be on their way. Michael, I got to think that a big talking point throughout is going to be the fuel strategy, not because of when they pit in, but more so how they save the fuel, especially at a track such as this.
Saving fuel is a big deal at Daytona. You can have that loud pedal down for a long time, and actually you do, and just a little bit of a lifting coast can make a huge difference at this track. Personally, when I've been driving here, I've found that I tend to be one of the better on fuel, although I'm at the pointy end of the the list there, because I tend to be farther up front. But because of the way I use that throttle, I tend to get maybe a lap more out of a full tank of fuel. And I should also mention, with our LMPs, we're only looking at a 90% fuel fill on these guys, and it was 66%, something like that for our GT folks. So they are limited on fuel to try to work a little fuel strategy here. So these guys really need to pay attention and be very careful about how much fuel they are using from lap to lap.
All right. I think this is the last 30 seconds. They are in the midst of their drivers' meeting. That's why they have a bit of a while here gridding up, making sure that everybody understands what to expect. Of course, it's the first race of the season. They have some newcomers. Bill, like you mentioned, you and I have covered so many seasons of this series that we kind of know what's coming. I fear for those that are new, they're going to witness what it's like in Autobahn here once things get green.
Kind of why I think the drivers' meeting's going a little longer. They got a lot to discuss. Joe, a couple of things that caught my eye. We've been away from it. Who knows? Maybe the sim racing has passed them by, or maybe the competition is getting steeper. But a couple names that you and I both noted farther down the aisle in the LMP2s, Bob the Blade Tinsey, starting way down in 7th position. That's a lot farther than we're used to seeing him. And then another driver is the Comet, Bradley Haley, in the 428. Really surprised to see him so far down in the GT3s. He's starting 31st overall. It'd be, I don't know what that'd be in class, about 15th.
Yeah, that is pretty shocking, honestly. Haley, usually in contention for the championship, so maybe his race pace will be a little bit better. We'll see once they come around and get going and get underway. We're going to get that green flag here in just a moment as they've taken off behind the Porsche pace car, and Jeffrey Ooms is waiting for the green. Now, they will have a split start as well, so expect the GT cars to hold back a little bit. We'll go to that once we get through the first corner here with our prototype class. There you can see the front of that GT field with their gap to the leaders. So they come off of NASCAR 4. Porsche pace car going to be dipping off into pit lane. Ooms already itching and ready to go as he is right up on there on the back bumper of that pace car. There it goes. Ooms waiting patiently. He can go when he pleases from here, and he's on the loud pedal. Green flag is out. It's a very good jump for the 3 car as they come down into the first corner. Paul Darling looks like he's going to be able to go single file deep on the brakes there, back at about 5th. We got a car going off in the background, trying to figure out who that is. Vance Bow, it appears. But Michael, we've got our GT start. Let's head there.
Got a great start. Cameron Bidwell has found that loud pedal very effective as he launches coming out through that acceleration zone. Then as we come into turn one, we got a 2-wide situation. Not too difficult here, but on cold tires, it can be really exciting as they file into a nice column here to kind of settle out the GT field. They know they've got a 90-minute race ahead of them. I don't expect too much consternation at this point.
Oh, it's been a bit of the opposite up here in the prototypes. Another incident, cop car and Nice looked like they were both involved. I saw a third car off course that may have been Chris Sherburne. And we got a slow one, it looks like, coming off of the International Horseshoe back at the back of the GTs. We'll try and figure out who that was in a moment. But otherwise, glad to see that the GT3 drivers were pretty patient there into the first corner for the most part. Coming now into the Le Mans chicane, Ooms leads Darling Bill with Gibson behind, being hotly chased by Olsen.
Indeed, just to follow up on that spin that you saw, cop car did loop the car, and then Dan Nice rolled it up, got on the binders, stopped about 3 inches away from T-boning him, but it went fine.
As we come up to complete the first lap, it's a very good run here for Olsen. He's going to go around the outside and actually pinches Gibson down. And will he get 2 here, Bill? He's going to try. That's Paul Darling.
He got 1, and Darling says not this time. You have to settle down into 3rd position, but he did get around Gibson cleanly.
Back into the International Horseshoe once again. Ooms ahead by about 0.8 of a second. Darling probably doesn't want to mess around with Olsen all that much here, Bill, because the more that they battle, the more that Ooms is going to be able to stretch away.
Fans call him the mantra, Jeffrey Ooms, and he has really opened up the lead now. Very comfortable. The battle is back behind him. The yellow car is the one you got to watch. That is Olsen. He's been very aggressive. I think, Joe, I think you nailed it. I think he wants to get around. I think he thinks if he can get around Darling, he's got something for the leaders.
Yeah, it seems like it. Olsen very much on the charge here at the start. Gibson down to 4th, obviously. Let's check back in with our GT drivers, though, here, Michael. Cameron Bidwell currently ahead of Schutt. A similar situation, looks like about 0.8 of a second ahead, and it's Ross Booth that is the one trying to challenge that 2nd place.
Yeah, Ross Booth trying to show a little bit of pressure, not being too aggressive. As we're used to, people understand a 90-minute race, you got a lot of time to continue racing. There's no need to really press that point early on. But Bidwell is really opening up a nice gap. 0.8 at this point, only a 2nd lap or 3rd lap in, is a pretty big gap to try to overcome. So I expect to see Bidwell trying to open this up a little bit more, get out of the range of being able to be drafted, and just let the monkeys behind him start flinging whatever it is they're going to fling at each other.
Indeed, you can see it was close once again. Olsen approaching the back of Darling. Don't need to go to it, but Vance Bow had some contact. I didn't see who it was with in the bus stop chicane and wound up in the tire barrier because of it. So he's now at the back of his class. In fact, it looks like he's limping it into pit lane. We continue to follow the battle here for 2nd. Darling ahead of Olsen. Gibson still giving watch. And then it's a gap back to Billy Smith there in the 901, Bill.
Indeed, just to follow up on what you were talking about, Bow got into a little bit of a argument about real estate with Justin Kirby. Kirby got the best of it. Bow got a little bit of a hip check. I want to talk about our driver real quickly. Can we put the camera down into car number? That was Dominic Dorenberg down there racing in what would be 8th position right now. He is up 5 spots and coming. He's got a ways to get up the front, but we have 90 minutes. Somebody to keep an eye on. We like to watch the drivers as they charge through the field, but the real excitement is still for 2nd position.
Yeah, Dornenberg having great luck here at the start, and so is Josh Lane in the 92 behind him. He's up 6 positions. Well, make it 5. He must have gotten a slowdown penalty or something because he's off to the side and allowing a couple cars to go through. As you can see, we're starting late in the day, so into the evening, going to be cool track conditions as the sun is just about below the horizon already.
Well, that's pleasant for the fans, but also, I think, from what I hear, nice on the tires, as they think in the evening, tire wear is not going to be an issue.
Yeah, we're hearing that there might be some that try to go the entire race without changing tires. We'll see if that comes to fruition when we get to the pit stops themselves, but don't expect that until we get about a third of the way into this race. And both of the classes, all 3 of the classes will need to come in. So back into the Western Horseshoe here as Dornenberg is trying to catch up to Kundinger. He now has those 5 positions up. He is the hardest charger in this group because of the loss of spots that Josh Lane had, but it's about 1 second up to Carter Kundinger here for this 913 car, so he's got some work to do.
I've been away from sim racing for a while, but one thing that hasn't changed, Joe, when you talk about the tire strategy, the drivers still lie to us just like they did years ago, so I have no faith in anything they tell us.
Tell you what, we got quite the battle down in 8th and 7th here in the GT class. This is between Robertson and Kerr, and this is for the pro class here. Our leader in the AM is still Robert Rattray right now.
Yeah, Robertson is really closing it up on Ryan Kerr very well. And again, everyone's being very respectful. I really like seeing this. Not all racers are going to get up there and be in that mindset to not just race. I like seeing this patience. So when I'm coaching people, it's one of the things I really push hard is you have to be patient and let that pass come to you instead of just the bull in the china shop charging through and sending car parts everywhere.
Absolutely. So as we watch them come down towards the chicane once again, Kerr under threat. Robertson decides to back out of it. It is still very much Porsches all up and down the front of the field in the GT classes. As basically, let's see, who's our highest now? Bradley Haley in the Audi.
Bradley. Yeah, Bradley in the Audi is going to be the highest. Only moving up 1 position so far. You were talking about the movement in position. You can go back a couple, back to Luke Schmidt, who is really our hard charger in the GT field so far. Luke is up 9 positions, and a special shout out to Shane Hunter, also up 8 positions. So a good bit of movement up there. Although I think Luke just made another position. That's 10.
Yep, that's him on screen right now, and just went by Franco Margarella there. They've also got Corey Ensing very close behind. Nice little fight here in 18th and 19th in the GTs. I believe it's about 4th or 5th in the AM class, though.
Trying to take them apart here and take a look at what we've got. We've got Rattray, I believe, in first, and in the AM class with Nick Davis bringing second in the AM class, if I'm reading my timing and scoring correctly. But lots of really good racing. I think everybody's trying to stay kind of in a position and use the cars ahead of them to hold on to just this nice line of stern and keep going. I think we're going to start seeing some real racing once that sun comes down below and the track starts cooling off. Because right now, hard to see what's going on around you. And the conditions of the track are just going to change dramatically once that sun goes down.
Look at how many cars are in line here coming. And this is all the way up to the leader, essentially. Cameron Bidwell still at the top spot, but the draft is making it almost impossible to get away. In fact, I'm trying to see where we finally have a decent-sized break in this pack. You probably go all the way down to Rattray in about 12th. Maybe, yeah, it looks like Bradley Haley behind him in 13th, really, where we finally get a gap that's more than a second between these cars. And it looks like we might have a challenge for the lead as Bidwell's going to go around the outside down into turn 1. We watched from on board Ross Booth here, Jesse Lyon, excuse me, rather, that we're watching from. And Booth not able to make the pass on Cameron Bidwell, at least this time.
It was a good attempt, but again, like I was saying before, we're just testing at this point. This is a 90-minute race. We're 10 minutes into this. So there's a lot of time, and you want to understand how your competitors are going to react. How is that other driver going to react if you fill up that left mirror, if you fill up the right mirror, if you close up really tight, or if you make a long run and try to outbrake them. So you really want to feel out exactly how they're going to react so you know how to best make your attack.
And it looks like we are now starting to get into what is going to be some of the most frantic racing, Bill. The leaders have caught the GT class cars, but I noticed that Paul Darling has fallen down positions. Did you catch what happened?
Yeah, he just got passed. We've been watching. Olsen was working to get around him. Well, he got that, so he moves up to second. But then also Gibson made the pass as well. So Darling is down in 4th, and he's got to keep going. Joey, you talked about, in fact, let's take a quick look. We got a nice battle. Can we put the car on 31 right now? Let's go outside as we see this battle. We're riding with it right now. Look at that, Gibson trying to find a way to hold back Darling. Darling wants those positions back. Oh, Darling is in that red, white, and blue car behind him. They work their way through this. You see the headlights of the cars are on. Really exciting. Joe, you were talking about the train of cars. That's not good news for Ohms. He wants a little bit of break as he's working his way through traffic.
Yeah, especially if he catches them in the infield section. That's going to be a nightmare for him and cost a lot of time. We've seen it, Bill, over the years. If you want to be successful at Autobahn, traffic management is a skill you must have.
Well, one of the things they've done is they've lost the third class. So, Michael, that's got to be a little easier, right? If we're only dealing with closing speeds that are only 2 different compared to 3 classes out there.
I guess that depends on which class you're in, but traffic management is always something that's on the mind of any endurance multi-class racer. You have to be aware of when you're going to catch the car and plan ahead. You must plan ahead. Right there, we saw a good indication of, hey, what's going on? Am I paying attention to that multi-class coming up in my mirrors as we watch that Ferrari do a little John Deere impression going through the grass? You don't want to do that. That's slower. You want to be on that tarmac part. You're going to be a lot faster if you stay on there instead of in the grass. Now, with threading your way through, this is a thing that I find really frustrating depending on where I'm racing. When you're in that slower class and someone else, big spin coming out onto the oval. Who was that?
That's Cop Car in the 4, unfortunately. He had to take a tow, it looks like, there, Michael.
Yeah, unfortunate, but that's part of racing. You get caught up on somebody, and probably leads to what I was just saying is I need you to stay online. I need you to be completely predictable, because that way I can get around you. If you start trying to, and we'll just go with air quotes here, help, you're really not helping. If you're predictable, you are helping. If you are doing exactly the same line you did last time I came up onto you 5-6 laps ago, then you're helping. But you try to move out of my way, then bad things are going to happen.
We might want to go back to the 55 because Darling and Gibson are in a heck of a battle here, Bill, and they're having to slice their way through cars. We're looking at potential 3 wide here.
And working his way around the outside, that's Darling. And I think he's going to get that pass made as Gibson got pinned, so Darling gets one of those spots back. That's some experience from Omar there as he makes that move. I want to jump you back real quick to this battle. We're going to go back to, let's go to car number 913. They're a pair of teammates. I've been telling you about this guy. It's Dominic Dornberg. And in fact, I think he's following his teammate right now. No, he's following Kundinger, sorry. And these guys are really working. You got a pair of teammates that are in those. Oh, I'm going to do colors, Joe. Oh, it's got to be red and yellow. It looks like they're on fire. Come on, that's what they are.
They're black and highlighter yellow, actually.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Well.
But it's the dress all over again, right?
Exactly. Well, and they're catching Robert Tinsley. Look at this. There's a battle in the GT cars directly in front of them that they're going to wait patiently. They don't want to interrupt that. As much as they want to catch up to Bob the Blade up there, they're going to try and hold on. They know they got to keep those cars whole because we're only 15 minutes in.
That's Mitchell Johnson and Ryan Kerr. They're working their way around right now, and they do that. Look at those teammates racing in formation.
And as they come off of NASCAR 4, Dornberg just watching the high side as Kundinger pushes through the air ahead of him. And they're going to go on past by the sister car of Robert Cast. And also, looks like maybe David Schutz. This is getting up to the higher positions, going around the outside. Looks like they're going to manage to safely and cleanly do that. But, man, look at just how tough it is. It is like a New York traffic jam.
Oh, my goodness. And they're doing a really good job. I hate to hark back to the old days, but, Joe, we used to do this when it was the Wild West. These guys have really got this down really clean.
This is a calm race compared to what we saw in years past from Autobahn, for sure. So I love what I'm seeing here. Yes, it's frantic, and yes, there's some sketchy moves, but so far, so good in having to deal with this traffic.
Yeah, traffic being the key to this race, I think, the largest key. There's several, of course, how you use your fuel, how you use your tires, but honestly, traffic is going to be the big thing, as it is in any multi-class endurance race. The traffic it surprises you. And we were on board just a moment ago watching as through the infield, going through that kink, that turn 5 kink, it gets pretty crazy to realize the closing speed. And if you've ever ridden in a GT3, you know it is not slow. It is incredibly fast. But when we watched on board from that LMP2, it looked like they were just having a Sunday drive.
Exactly. Just kind of picking their spot and zipping around like it was nothing. And in fact, saw that I think it was Mo Islam made a late dive on Cameron Bidwell, our leader, but thankfully was able to get through without incident. And in fact, there are our leaders nose to tail in the GT Pro class. Bidwell not going to be attacked this time. I wonder if that traffic around the outside, Michael, is having an effect of whether or not he wants to risk it.
Yeah, again, traffic is just a big factor here. Now, one thing I was trying to listen in on the drivers' meeting while they were having that. In the real-world Daytona races, we have an understanding, and it is discussed in our drivers' meetings. The slower class will take the lower line, the higher class will take the higher line going into turn 1, which ultimately promotes an outside pass going through turn 1. And that's kind of the only guidance that you're really given there. And it really helps to settle things down, should I say, into that turn 1, because you're coming off of 190, 200 miles an hour in one of these prototypes compared to that 177-ish in a GT car, depending on how it's trimmed out and whether they've got a good draft going or not. But you really need to have that understanding when you're going around there to keep things in order and not create a big pile of carbon fiber and metal.
Exactly. I wonder if we could give some love to our leader in the AM class, because, I mean, we've been following Bidwell, and that's been exciting. But Robert Rattray, he hasn't really had much of a fight here, Michael, from his fellow AM competitors, but still holding on well. He's in the front group.
Yeah, holding on with that front group. There's that long line we were talking about, that line astern running through there. Rattray is only about a third of a second, half a second off of the guys in front of him, doing a wonderful job keeping up right there and just maintaining pace, locking it in, knows what he's doing. As we watch right here going into that turn 1, little bit of a push up the inside. That's going to be Johnson going around you with Rattray tucking up behind. We could see a pass here. A couple of opportunities for passing. Obviously, turn 1 is okay as a passing zone, but coming into this international horseshoe, that's really your first great opportunity to pass. Not so much in the Western horseshoe. You can still pass there, but then you're going to see going into Le Mans. So I expect we're going to watch everybody, like I was saying before, now that the track's starting to cool off, now that you're learning how the guys around you drive, it's time to start doing something. So is Rattray going to move forward? I kind of think he's got it in him to make that happen.
Yeah, right now, just hanging out at the back of this train, running 12th currently, and at least overall in the GTs, but leading in the AM class. So that is that 33 car that you see on your screen. That is your AM leader right now. That'll be important because there is a championship for that, even though it's all the same type of GT3 cars that the pros and the AMs are all running. But man, this train, unbelievable. We're already on lap 11, and they still have this many in it, which is the absolute opposite of what Cameron Bidwell wants right now. He wants 2, if no cars with him.
Yeah, if I were Cameron Bidwell right now, I would be finding a way to drop a little oil or something on the track and get those guys to slow down. Not that there's any way you could possibly do that, but, you know, unless you got the James Bond buttons on your car, maybe a little smoke screen. But that doesn't work so well in iRacing.
It certainly doesn't. And watching them down through turn 1 once again, not a lot of moves. I suspect there are indeed fuel shenanigans happening amongst this group as drivers try to save a little bit to have a shorter stop potentially, maybe jump a few people in this group during the pit sequence as they come through the infield once again. I thought I heard an incident. Did somebody hit a wall somewhere? Oh, Paul Slavonic had a bad push from Chad Dick just now and wound up hard into the barriers in the tri-oval. He's had to tow into pit lane. That might be it for that Audi.
Ooh, not good for the Audi. There not many non-Porsches in this field, so we want to see how those Audis and Ferraris. I think we got that one McLaren, a couple of BMWs in there, but that car does not look good. That kind of stress on that wing, it definitely puts it in a bad position. You don't want much downforce here, and just getting in the way a little bit. Bam, right back up into the wall. That could be a race-ending move right there.
Yeah, well, he's definitely got an extra pit stop now because you can see he's taking it in a pit lane. As we come back to our LMP2s, this is our leader, Jeffrey Ooms, now about 4 seconds ahead of Olsen. They've already gone through the field once. Let's see, how close are they to getting to the back of them again? Actually, they're catching them right now, Bill, so it starts all over again.
Let's drop off of Ohms right now. Let's look at the 82. This is Robert Tinsey in 6th position. The strategy, while you guys are doing the GT3s, the action there is so close and tight. In the LMP2s, it's not. It's more of a chess game where it's slow strategy. I want to drop back one spot from him, and here's the guy I've been watching. Again, it's Double D Dominic Dornberg. He's got around his teammate of Carter Kundinger, and now next on his hit list is Tinsey. It's going to be a while till he gets there. Tinsey's loose. Tinsey puts it in the wall out of Le Mans.
Oh, no. We saw this a lot last night when we were watching the majors and much older prototypes. They seem to have trouble through the Le Mans chicane. And now Robert Tinsey with a hard hit is our next to visit pit lane. He was not able to drive it back. He is already taking a tow.
It's that Dornberg pressure, I'm telling you.
Dominic is now up to 6, up 7 positions from where he began. Here's the replay, Bill. And it started to go already before he even hit those last few curbs.
Yeah, he was working hard. That's unusual. You know, usually we see Bob up front working his way. Bob the Blade is his nickname, working his way through traffic. That happened not in traffic, just a clear track, and it makes me feel good. If it happens to him, I'm going to feel good tomorrow when I put it in the wall.
Well, he's the first of our... Well, no, he's not the first of our LMP2s to go. Nikhil Kopkar and Vance Bow have also DNF'd here early. So we've lost those two. We've also lost Corey Insing, William Marsala, J.R. Gregory, and Mark Godrowski. Now, Slavonic is taking repairs. We don't know if he's out officially, but it seems like this track is already gobbling him up.
Yeah, Daytona, it eats cars. It really does. It looks like it's an easy track, and kind of is. It's not that complex just looking at the way the track goes, but there are so many just incredibly minute nuances to making yourself fast at this track that it's a lot more complicated than people think. And I mention that every time I do a broadcast at this track. It is incredibly hard to get those beautiful laps that just stretch out that gap between you and the person chasing you. Right now we're looking at Cameron Bidwell. He was opening up a nice gap earlier and was trying to get closer to that second and a half, and he just can't do it. Part of that is, as you were talking earlier, about holding on to that fuel. You don't want to burn too much fuel, and when you've got nobody in front of you to help you save a little bit of fuel with some lifting coast, well, you're the one burning heavy fuel. So everybody behind him, Booth, Shirazi, Shutt, Cass, they're all very happy to leave Bidwell out there.
Oh, man, the 84 of Dean Kerr had an accident I've had before into turn 1 here, Michael. I don't know if you've ever been in this situation in real life, because to me it seems like it would just be absolutely frightening, but he found the pit exit barrier.
Yeah, that pit exit barrier, I've done it in iRacing a few times, but sliding sideways through there like that, that's one of the lighter hits I've seen on that particular tire wall. I've seen people go into that, and it's almost like the tire wall's not there. It just completely eviscerates the car. I was doing, I want to say, a Mazda race in iRacing where I hit that. Now, real life, I've never seen anybody hit that one, but for sure in iRacing, absolutely.
It always struck me as a bit of an odd one that it seems a bit dangerous, but so far, yeah, like you said, we've at least gotten away without anything too crazy there in the real world. As we watch our leaders, Bidwell leading Booth, leading Shirazi, and not much change. I'm almost certain at this point that this is a strategy game that we're witnessing at the front of that field. So we switch over once again to the prototypes here, Bill, to your favorite, Dominic Dorenberg, ahead of Kundinger now.
He is indeed. He got that done, and then he was behind Tinsey when he spun. So the next on the hit list for him, but it's a ways up, is old timers. Good to see Billy Smith. Let's go ahead and put the camera on 901. Billy Smith racing right now in 5th position, started in 4th.
And Billy hails from Club Texas. Ooh, is definitely squirming under power there as he tries to get it going onto the banking. So he's feeling it here. Wouldn't think that the tires, especially in the LMP2s, are eaten up at this stage. But they are getting close to the pit window. We'll see if he decides to take those or not. It does cost them time. So that's why it is such a talking point on whether or not they want to take those tires. Both the GT cars and the LMP2 cars can only take them separately, Bill. So it's going to be a risk versus reward. Wait, oh, and now look at that. Suddenly Ross Booth is our new leader in the GT Pros.
Yeah, Ross just biding his time, waiting for the right opportunity to come about, found it, and executed on it. This early in the race, yeah, it might be time to start to assert some dominance now that everybody's kind of gotten into this lull, should I say. But if you want to spice things up, go ahead and make a pass and get people excited. Look at that as we start to spread out going into International Horseshoe. Was that International? No, that was Western. Sorry, there's a Western Horseshoe coming around trying to get back onto the oval. If he can get a really solid power down here, he has a chance to open this up and try to pull this field away. I'm wondering if he's thinking, you know, Bidwell was trying to run this field too slow. I want to open this up. And you catch somebody like that and you're ready to go and they're still in that old pattern, you can actually open this up on him. So it'll be fun to watch what's going on here. He's already got over half a second.
Well, the other interesting thing here, Michael, is that the pit window is technically open. So I wonder if this is Ross saying, all right, I've saved the fuel I need to save. I want to be first into the pits here. And here we go. Things are going to get frantic once again. This is Ooms going by, which means we've got the entire LMP2 field getting ready to chop through. That could also make a decision as to who pits win here.
Indeed it could, but he may have also been timing that, seeing that LMP2 car come around, hoping he'd be able to pick up a little bit of a draft off of it, but didn't look like he could get too much. The LMPs are just too fast when you get on the oval. A little bit helpful maybe in the infield, but not so much on the oval as we get a little bit of too wide going into the first corner. Ooh, backs out of it, tries to make that pass. This is, again, I think just testing the limits, seeing what your competitors can take.
That's David Shutt ahead of Cast Care, Lion Robertson. A whole bunch of them, nearly contact between Robertson and Atterbury there. And Atterbury is very much on the charge. He sits ninth currently, and that is ninth in the Pro Class as well. Here for him, ahead of him, a late dive from Robertson looking on, that may have been Atterbury on Robertson. There as well, and they've got the likes of Paul Darling now interrupting that fight and actually making a little contact with Joey.
Yeah, surprise from Joey there. Joey, I have raced with Real World Racing. We were together at Mitcham Motorsports. He was in the GS class in I want to say it's the Camaro at the time. I was in the BMW, and then he moved off to be a Ford driver. Wonder how he likes having that engine in the back now in this Porsche, though.
Absolutely, and well, he had a heck of a time there trying to get it onto the oval. You saw him nearly slap the outside wall in the process, so he gets sent back down to 10th because of that, and he's taken a lot of curb down through the Le Mans chicane. Thankfully, it's not going to result in a cut course penalty. Exactly 1/3 through now. Will we see drivers pitting in amongst these GT Pros? Not seeing anybody make motion toward the lane, but I do see Billy Smith pitting in the LMP2. So there is our first taker.
And my guess is going to happen now as the window for the LMP2s are pretty darn small. So I think not only Smith, you're going to see them all come in probably next lap.
Yeah, we're talking about 4 minutes on either, 4 minutes total, really, for the pit window here. So the drivers are probably, I am a bit surprised that we're only seeing Billy Smith so far. Justin Kirby stays out, and we haven't seen Chris Sherburne come through quite yet. So that one isn't the entire field, but it's pretty much everybody. So here is Jeffrey Ooms on your screen right now in the 3. Started it on pole, has been running at the front since the beginning of the race, and still holds about 4.5 seconds over Nathan Olson. So probably not too concerned about being undercut here by a pit strategy call.
And from what I can tell, Billy Smith's car did not go up on the jack, so I think he's going to at least 2 stint the first round.
Yeah, 27 seconds. I don't think that's a tire stop. Let's see if the leader is in, and no, he's going to carry on. So he's making pretty good fuel mileage then, because we're almost 2 minutes past the half-hour mark.
Yeah, that fuel mileage in all the classes is really something you want to pay attention to. Now, you do have the opportunity to choose a different fuel setting. And looking at these cars and the lap times they're turning compared to what they were doing in the qualifying, I think they may have turned it down 1 notch or 2 just to try to save a little fuel and try to go long and have a short fuel fill. We're going to see these cars probably speed up, not just from the temperature change, so a little denser air and a little cooler track, but also because those motors are going to get turned up at the end of the race to try to start making some real racing happening.
There's Dorenberg in. Now, this is interesting because Dorenberg and Kundinger are teammates. They were racing nose to tail. Kundinger stays out.
Dominic is in. Gibson also pits. Lee Peterson, Josh Lane, Justin Kirby. Smith's already taken his stop. We'll see where he shakes out in amongst these guys. Sherburne did not pit in last time. Kind of think he's probably going to be no, he's not coming in this time. So Chris Sherburne also making very good fuel. Gibson is out. And Billy Smith is coming around now. It's a long ways to the cones here, but Gibson's going to beat him. Smith will be out behind him, and Dornenberg is going to be out behind Smith as well as Chris Sherburne, who we still need to see take a pit stop in that 135.
One more lap and it should all sort out.
Oh, Ooms is in. Our leader has pitted. Olson pits. Looks like Darling is coming in. Waiting on Kundinger, Nice, and Islam, as well as Josh Wolf.
Holmes had a 5-second gap to second place, so unless he needs to have a ham sandwich while he's in pit lane, I think he's going to get out here comfortably in the lead.
Yep, he hit his marks. Darlene coming in, and he is cleanly into his box as well. And yes, this is everybody basically pitting in on this lap. Sherburne will be the last of them. But all of the front group have pitted. So now we wait and see what happens amongst those in the LMP2 class once the stops are through. Still waiting on the GT class, which actually, as soon as I say that, well, I thought Mitchell Johnson had pitted in, but no, he had gone way deep down into the first corner. In fact, he had some help from Joey Atterbury, it appears. That was nearly a gigantic incident for Mitchell Johnson.
Yeah, Mitchell Johnson doing a nice job to hold on to his position so far, but a little bit of opening up of this long train that we were watching. But let's go back here. That's Atterbury right there in the number 51, the red car, the third one in the screen. Now the first one in the screen. As we come on down, there was a little bit of looked like a lift, a tiny bit early off the green car. Just kind of lifting a little bit too soon, I think, and caught Atterbury off guard as he tried to come through there behind him.
It's not often you can turn a guy and then watch him spin in front of you the whole time. That's well done. Usually when you turn him, you're long gone. You have to watch him in the rearview mirror. He got a nice windscreen full of that. That was good.
A great job by Johnson, too, because he caught the car, didn't hit a thing, and he's still going. So... well, this bumps Rattray up to 11th in the GT cars, but still the leader in the AM class as well because of that incident. Mitchell Johnson down to 14th in class, in the pro class now, after his little spin. We'll see if he can pull a Danny Sullivan, but it's not looking likely with the pace that we've got from Booth, Bidwell, and Shirazi at the front. Speaking of which, here we go. Bidwell is in pit lane.
Yeah, Bidwell trying to take advantage of some time where the lane's going to be clear and hopefully come back out into the right
missed his
traffic.
stall.
Oh, did he miss it?
Just missed it.
Just missed it. Oh, that's a bummer. Hate it when that happens. Hopefully he's going to be able to recover. He's been doing really well so far, and the way everybody's playing, I think he's going to get out into another group of traffic and be able to just catch that draft and hopefully close things back up for himself.
Yeah, this was a loss of maybe 2 seconds there. So that could put him at the back of that group that he was leading for a good chunk of the start of this race.
And that group, by the way, got a split. There was a little peloton pulled off at the front of that with him, Booth, and Shirazi. They opened up a nice gap to Robert Cast. Cast having about a 2.5 to 3 second gap right now off of the that lead group that whole train of 12 or so was part of. So there is now a split in that lead group of the GT cars.
So back out they come, and Bidwell is ahead of Schutt, and Atterbury also pit. Trent Brown, looks like Eric Thomas, Luke Schmidt, good chunk of them. We see a number of others that are in pit lane. Nobles, Dean Kerr, Jake Hickson. We're waiting on most of the leaders to be pitting in, which you see them on screen now. The 03 of Booth. Does he pit in this time? He's not making motions for it. He does not. But Shirazi behind him does pit in. So does Ryan Kerr. Looks like Jesse Lyon. They're really pushing it down to the cones, though. This is a lot like you see with the super speedway racing, Michael, where you have to practice that pit entry.
I practice pit entry, honestly, probably if I'm coming to Daytona, and we have this thing called the Roar Before the 24. And one of the big things we practice, we'll spend an hour on it with the various drivers in the car. Where do you hit the brakes when you're coming off? If you're behind a draft of an out-of-class car, if you're in the draft of an in-class car, if you're in no draft, if you're the leader of the group, where do you brake so that you hit that pit marker at exactly the pit speed without getting a penalty?
So now we're only waiting on Ross Booth, Robert Cast, and that's it, because I just saw Patrick McDaniel, who was the other one that needed to pit. He came in this time by, and only 2 drivers able to make it a full 40 minutes potentially here. Just shy of 40 minutes is where we've got about 52 left to go on the clock. That's going to be very handy. That's a pretty wide window, Bill, for our GT cars, actually.
Indeed. Can we see if you can find car number 911? This is Ryan Rochelski. I think he's in 24th overall in class. That's my McLaren, baby. Prettiest car in the race right now. Only one out there. Had a nice pit stop. His race has been clean. I'm watching you, man.
Yeah, right now he is 13th in class. 13 of the GTs, I should say. He is 12th in class, in the pro class right now. So holding it down. I'm biased too towards that McLaren, still my favorite. Yep, you're right here, Michael. Looks like Booth pits, Cast follows him in. So Shirazi's out ahead of Bidwell. That's not too much of a surprise with Cameron having that little bit of a longer stop on his pit stop, but actually did a good job of keeping within range. It's about 0.6 of a second up to the 66, but this will be decisive. Where does Booth and Cast come out?
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious with Booth, Cast, and where they're going to come out against Shirazi and Bidwell. Right now, Bidwell is only about half a second off of Shirazi. Bidwell, remember, overran that pit stall just a little bit, had right at a 1 minute pit lane time, where everyone else is high 58, low 59.
Booth is rolling.
Yeah, we looks like we got it. It's a nice little draft here. Trying to come out. Here he is. He's going to try to make it out of here. Is he going to get ahead of him? No. It looks like he's going to be just stuck behind. But is he going to be close enough? We've got the 3. Ross Booth. He is out front, but can he hold it? Nice braking there. Good job from Booth holding on to that lead.
Woohoo, that's good stuff.
And critically, look at that. Booth, Shirazi, and somehow Bidwell, in spite of the pit stop that he had, have broken away. I don't know how that 56 is still up with those guys, but David Schutt seems to have lost touch. He's about 2 seconds behind now, and this is what those leaders have been looking for, Michael, the breakaway.
Yeah, this is that little group. This group of three broke away earlier, or a group of three, and I believe it was these three were able to pull away earlier and caught that about 2.5 second lead off of Shutt. So this is our lead peloton at this point. For all you bicycle racing fans out there, it's our lead peloton at this point, trying to open up this gap. And Booth looks like he's trying to make his own run on it too. He is opening up a gap now. He is out to about 4.5, 5 tenths as they work their way through Le Mans and gets on the power coming out. But does he have enough to hold on to the lead? 5, 6 tenths. It should be just enough where he's going to be able to keep it. These guys are not going to be able to close up too much.
Yeah, I got to think he's not going to be able to completely run away, even though he got a decent gap there. However, we are going to take a short break now that we have finished our first set of pit stops. We'll be back after this here on FTF.GG. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway here on FTF.GG. It's the first round of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Jeffrey Ooms leads in the prototypes, Ross Booth leads in the GT Pros, and Robert Rattray leads the GT AMs currently. We had a switch for second while we were away. Cameron Bidwell fought hard and managed to overtake Shirazi, is still within touching range of Ross Booth as well. So that fight is on. We also had a bit of an accident for Jason Iverson in the 60. Big hit, unfortunately, into the first corner. And I'm kind of surprised that the car's still running, if I'm honest here, Michael.
Yeah, sometimes these crashes in iRacing take more damage than you think they should. Other times, you're very happy they didn't. But let's take a look at this replay here as he comes down. This is going to be going into turn one. I think he just gets a little bit too much grass, and there's that pit wall at the entry. That's exactly what you were talking about earlier. A lot of people use that as a guide point. That's where you know you're going to bend the car around. But when we talk about bending the car around the corner, this is not the way. That's not the right kind of bending.
Yeah, and there is no spoon. But
yeah.
In the meantime, look at this. Here we go. This is the pass on replay.
For second right there.
That's how hard he had to fight for it. That's what I was talking about. Cameron just was not taking no for an answer.
Yeah, but he had the position, honestly, going in. We were talking earlier about the places you're going to see those passes. International Horseshoe. If you've got the position going into it, and you're not dive bombing, which is not the right thing to do. Nobody should ever dive bomb into those corners. But when you get up there and you've got position and you have control of the corner, that is yours. That's why he held onto that inside right side position.
So
Let's go ahead and put the camera on number 32 in the LMT. So this is Nathan Olson. I think we'll get a good chance to get a little run through the field here of the GT3s as he works his way through these top 10. Look at the line that he's got to go through. Next, he's coming to come up is the amateur leader. That's Rattay. He gets that done. And now he's coming up. Here comes Joey Atterbury and all the guys we've been watching putting on the show in the GT3s.
I love this onboard view here. The Moradness team, one to watch out for here. Sadly, don't have Daniel, of the namesake of this team, able to race in this one. Hopefully, we'll get him in round 2. One of those drivers that just did not hit the register button in time, and things filled up a little bit too quickly.
That's Robertson. I'm sorry, Robertson. He gets around. There goes Cat. Lion, boy, what great battle going on in those GT3s.
And now here we fly along through the tri-oval, and things getting close between Kerr and Schutt. This is the battle for 4th in that class, as actually we're looking up ahead now of the likes of Olsen at Shirazi, Bidwell, and Ross Booth, and he's going to catch them in the infield. This could actually separate these three if he tries to go by at the wrong time.
Yeah, Bidwell, oh, there we go with the flashing lights, looking to get through here. Gets a little stuck. Is that going to put a gap between Bidwell and Shirazi? I don't think so, but now Bidwell gets stuck as they go through the Western Horseshoe. Now time for power down as we go past the GT leader. Take a look off that rear wing as he tucks up into the corner. Now, do they come back together? We got gap now about 0.6 of a second between P1 and P2 in the GT class. That is not a lot. It was a lot closer, though, as they went in. So that was pretty good chess playing by Ross Booth, figuring out how to use that faster car as his pick.
Booth is trying to add another championship to his tally, and so far this race is a good sign that he could actually be a serious contender this season. But Daytona is always that bit of the wild card, Bill, because of the slipstream. But I have to admit that right now, Booth looks like he's managing it extremely well.
Yeah, you know, when you come to Daytona, you think like you're getting the first chapter of the book. You're really not. What this shows you is, it's kind of like if you go into a movie, you're not seeing the first scene. You're seeing like the trailer, the little in a universe where, that type of thing. Because this really doesn't tell you a lot. You get to know the drivers. The real racing will start round 2.
Indeed, and that one is going to be at the Red Bull Ring, which is going to be a very different dynamic from this one, that is for sure. As we come back once again to that battle for 5th place, being led by Ryan Kerr. No, excuse me, 4th place, David Schutt is leading it in the number 5 machine, getting almost up to the bumper there, Ryan Kerr, making sure that the threat stays on.
Yeah, that was broken up a little bit by another prototype working its way through. It really is an important message to all the drivers. You have to use the traffic to your advantage. You can't let the traffic dictate what happens to you. Now, you don't always have a choice because the other guy's dictating a little bit better than you are. As we have an off, that's going to be in the international the international.
Yeah, it was the international.
Yep.
That was Josh Wolf, actually. He got some help. I'm trying to see who it was that made contact with him. But they were battling side by side. I think it was Mo Islam. Yeah, that's him in the green and black machine. As they fly down into the corner, Mo locks it up, and he was giving him space, but unfortunately, it was just not enough space, and Wolf gets punted out into the grass.
Yeah, unfortunate to see that. It's one of the frustrating things that happens in sim racing. Doesn't matter which platform you're on. The contact, it treats it like it's a solid object, that the car is a solid object. And when in reality, all these panels bend a lot. And a hit like that probably wouldn't give that much of a spin. But it's in the modeling, it's in the physics, that's the way it works. So sim racing is a different thing. You have to understand that when you're racing in a sim, whoa, as we go under the paint to get through, Wow, that was a really good pass. And by the way, that is a legal pass here. On the tri-oval portion, you are able to go below that double yellow line. However, when you get out on the high banking, so that would be the NASCAR 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're not allowed to go below that double yellow line. So very heads-up racing. Good job from that prototype driver.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And he's still having to do a lot of bobbing and weaving here, and that's because he's trying to run away from his rival. That's Carter Kundinger with Dan Neese that is in and amongst those GT cars as well. And unfortunately for Dan Neese, he's not going to be able to get the exit he wants, because already ahead of them, it looks like Carter Kundinger is pulling away, and poor Dan is still slicing his way past.
That's too bad, because Nice had really done a good job at closing the gap on Kundinger, and then he gets stuck behind a line of 5 GT3 cars, and now he's got to do it all over again. Don't worry, there's more traffic ahead.
Yep. If you're Dan Neese, you just push forward, and next thing you know, Bob's your uncle, and he'll be up there and fighting with Carter. But 38 minutes left to go. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because, Michael, if anybody wants to do something a little bit different, if they have good reason, theoretically, GT cars could get to the finish from here.
Yeah, if you back time it and maybe change your fuel setting, your engine map, you could get to the end. It's not that unheard of. And honestly, you're going to take on the same amount of fuel by the time you get to the end. So how much fuel you're going to take on and when you're going to take it and how you manage that throttle, that's going to be the big thing. You're going to want to put yourself out into a group of cars that is creating a big hole in the air, so you have a lot of lift and coast time.
I always justify my slow pace by claiming fuel saving. Works great.
Meanwhile, as there goes the car of Mo Islam, we saw Ryan Kerr try and maybe get close. Oh, he got pushed wide through the kink. That can be scary at times. David Shutt in front of him gets separated by that LMP2 briefly, but you can see it's getting a bit frantic and almost some miscommunication here into turn 6.
Yeah, it gets a little crazy there. Again, traffic. You've got to manage the traffic. And if you are the slower class, stay online or at least be predictable in your offline movement. They have the ability to communicate with each other. There is no team radio. Well, there may be, but there's still the ability to use the communication that iRacing offers to let everybody know, or the person coming up, that, hey, I'm going to hold right here. You don't want too much chatter going on, because
Bidwell,
the wall. That Bidwell into the wall.
Oh, that's one of our front runners.
Oh, that's gotta hurt. That's gotta hurt. Not just the physical hurt that goes along with that. Let's take a look here as they go into the Le Mans chicane. Coming out of it, gets a little bit wiggly. I think he hit too much of the leading edge of that right side. That's gonna end his day. That's too bad. Wow, what a great run he made after making that slightly less than perfect pit stop.
And that means, because of his toe, that he's definitely out of the running for the victory. Now, he could get back out on track, but wow, yeah, the front of the car looks pretty messed up. So I'm not sure how long it's going to be before he has that in running condition. So now it's down to Booth and Shirazi up at the front. They've been gapping Shutt. It's now about 6 seconds to P3, or what is now P3. It was 4th before Bidwell's incident, and he gets promoted up into the podium. But Booth and Shirazi, if you're Shirazi, you definitely don't want to lose touch with Ross now, because it's only you two.
That's Leif Peterson, the LMP2 there, the old-time veteran stuck between those two GT3s. Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say Shirazi has a good hold, though, but he's still about 3/4 of a second off. That's enough to keep a draft here. It's going to be difficult to hold up, but it's easy enough at that distance to maintain at a minimum. So he's going to have to maybe turn the engine up a little bit, try to find a little place where he's faster, hope that one of these LMP2s coming through gives him an opportunity to close it up so that he's not running alone in P2.
The thing about Shutt, though, is that Lyon is with him, Kerr is with him, Cast, Robertson, all in a group. So Now, if they want that that podium stat in their columns, there's going to be a little bit extra incentive to try and fight. And look at that. There we go. Lyon has Ryan Kerr trying to look around the outside, but no, he gets back into line, looks underneath. Is he going to actually try and make the move? No, but it's deep for Lyon. Almost looks like he loses control, somehow gathers it up in time and still doesn't lose the position.
Very close to contact there coming out of the last part of the turn sequence of turn 1, but gets the nose underneath. Wow, we've got some racing going on now. These guys know there's only one round or one pit stop left, maybe, and how are they going to run it here? This is starting to get to a little bit of unsettled. I want to move up. I'm tired of being in 5th, 6th, 7th. I want to be on the podium. So it is time for this race to get going in full swing.
Yeah, that was a great move there by Ryan Kerr, overtaking Lyon for 4th in the GT Pro class. Robert Rattray, 8th overall in the GT cars, still leading in that AM category. A shout out to Nick Davis as well in the number 17. He's 2nd in that AM class currently, but kind of all on his lonesome. He's been running a good race, just really hasn't had anything to write home about, unfortunately, with not much to do. And Kerr's still on the charge. Kerr's going to try and take 3rd, and he's going to do it down into the Le Mans chicane. Schutt lets him have it.
Yeah, smart move. Don't battle too hard, especially going into that chicane. If somebody really wants it that bad, you can let them have it, because now you're coming out into a beautiful opportunity to just stick up under their wing and follow them around. You watch this gap that happens here. It's going to close up as they come around towards start finish. Although a little look-see, going to take that high line coming into that start finish. We're going to look at a 3 wide opportunity here as they go into turn 1. Wow, under the brakes, end up 2 wide, pushes them out just a little bit. Oh, 2 wide, going wide on the outside.
Oh, no.
Here. Oh, and he spins him.
Jesse Lyon gets turned around. The 3 wide just did not work heading through the chicane out of turn 1. I wondered if that was going to unravel at some point. That was a scary moment for David Schutt. He was the one that made the contact with Lyon that sent him backwards. So one less driver in the mix. And have they learned their lesson from that to try and cool it down a little bit from there?
I think that's your best attempt at humor all night. Drivers learning a lesson. Yeah, that does not happen. They'll try it 10 times out of 10, no doubt.
You're saying that's better than my niece and uncle joke a little bit earlier as we come to a battle here with our LMP2s. I think this
that was a joke too.
Yes, I know it's a shock. That was a joke. But Nice and Kundinger fighting for 7th in the LMP2 class.
Nice, we saw this battle earlier where Nice lost ground when he got stuck in traffic, and there he's got it right back up.
Yep, so Dan trying to fight with Carter Kundinger here for that 7th position coming through the infield. I'll tell you what, this is one of my favorite spots here, Michael, at the real track, down through the kink. It's a lot more fearsome than people realize. They're going pretty quick.
Yeah, and honestly, iRacing and any other of the services out there don't do it justice. When you are in a car and you are approaching the kink at, let's say you're in a touring car at 110, 115 miles an hour, you are absolutely certain you're not making it through there. And then somehow those race tires just hold on, and there you go. Then you do it in a GT car, and you're going even faster. Now, do it in a prototype. You have multiple classes of prototype in the real world. There is absolutely no way you're going to make it through there until you do. And then you do it again and again. It is absolutely stunning how much grip these cars have.
As they go by the car of Boyd Payne, and he's been gaining a lot here in the slipstream. Does Dan have another go at it? No. Looks like he'll sit in behind, almost trying to bump draft here along the tri-oval portion, and relatively successfully he backs out once they get up towards the braking down into turn 1. So apparently he wants to try to work together. They're trying to catch to Dornenberg, which is about 5 seconds up the road. So as we follow them now into the infield section, this is going to get tricky. They've got Ian Simon and Jimbo Pfeiffer in front of them, and this is a battle for position here in the GT class. So, and unfortunately, that was a big moment there for Carter Kundinger. He holds on to it, but nearly losing control through the kink as he puts two wheels into the grass.
Yeah, that may have been a little bit of helping, as we were talking earlier. Don't help. Stay on the normal line. That seemed like almost a defensive position. I don't know that I would have done that there.
Yeah, that was very sketchy, and thankfully they all got away with it. And Kundinger carries on without even losing the position to Nice as well. So there's that battle for 7th. I've also been half watching Leif Peterson and Josh Lane, who have been fighting for 10th. But this one's a little bit closer right now. We'll jump to that if that starts to erupt. They went on by Young Park. You could see the flashing of the lights as they tried to alert him that they were coming along. Let's see, do we get more bump drafting? Indeed, we do. Oh, that was a bit of a rough shove, though, that time from the 14 car. Now he's able to get with him. They get a nice little push. Oh, Billy Smith in pit lane. This might be kicking off our second set of stops for the LMP2s.
He was first to pit last time, and he's first to pit again.
That's a good point there, Bill. Yeah, so that makes sense why we've seen him in as early as this. So none of the others are pitting in quite yet. Kirby and Sherburne need to come around, though. So we're still waiting on them. In fact, Sherburne has gone a lap down from our LMP2 leader of Jeffrey Ooms. So he's the only of our prototypes that has been lapped currently amongst them. We watch this train of cars battling for 3rd position, being led by Kerr, who really wanted to get up there, Michael. And now that he's up there, it seems like he is just playing the Pied Piper.
Yeah, he's got a prototype about to make its way around his right side as he's working around. But we're taking a look. Is that our leader who went into the pits?
Yeah, that's Jeffrey Ooms.
Yeah, but back to the GT battle here. Timing it just beautifully, letting that LMP car come around him. Goes into the braking zone. Looks like he's got a little bit later braking point than the cars behind him, or the guys behind are just trying to not knock him off the track into that runoff area. But, we have somebody low. We have an LMP low.
This is unusual.
That's going to be Joshua
Lane, yeah. Okay, this was through NASCAR 1 and 2. He spun the car coming out of turn 6. So that's why he's staying low. I think that's a situation where they will allow that. Just he was off pace, so he was staying out of the way of everybody else.
Yeah, that's the right thing to do there for sure. Because it's an interesting thing about the LMP2 cars. That first gear runs up to about 80 miles per hour, so about 150, 160 kilometers an hour. So there's not a lot of grunt down low. To get that thing going again, you kind of need some space. So it's not so great 0 to 60 or even 0 to 80, but 100 to 180 is pretty good.
Looks like Ooms, along with his pit stop, was joined by Paul Gibson. He's finished. Leif Peterson is in and is now taking his fuel. So we're seeing a few more, a bit at a time, trickle into the lane here, Bill. But Nathan Olson has been staying out. And in fact, I see Olson carrying on. So he's not even going to pit yet.
Olson had that hard charge early, worked his way up a couple spots. Then it's been about a 5, 6, 7 gap, actually a 14-second gap between Ooms and Olson. But the excitement has been what Nice can do. Nice has really been the guy to watch.
Peterson's finished. He's back out on the track now. Looks like Billy Smith has recently taken a pit stop. Okay, so he's done. So there's a couple more that are basically good to go to the finish. And now Dornenberg. Dornenberg is down the lane. And looks like he's going to be taking fuel, but Nice decides not to. Ooms goes on by. We know he's finished his stop. Carter Kundinger's not going to pit stop this time. Mo Islam is going to carry on.
So looking back at the GT field here, this is going to be Ryan Kerr and Robert Cast. This is our P3, our battle for 3rd in class. Now, these guys have been paying mind to each other, kind of trading a lap here and there. But we're looking at the 7-11 leading that pack. It's time to make hay. The sun is not shining, but we're going to make hay anyway. This little field here needs to open up because in front of Kerr, about 8.5 seconds up to Johan Shirazi. Now, Shirazi has lost touch with Booth. Booth is over a second and a half, almost 1 3/4 seconds out in front. Booth is in kind of a race of his own right now. And unless something happens with traffic, I expect he's going to hold on to that. But Ryan Kerr right now in P3, doing everything he can to hold on to this position, but he's got cars breathing down his neck.
Yeah, they are not letting go. They're going to make a race of this, and you can see them coming along here. None of the 5 are choosing to pit in. Kerr gets a bump from Cast. They're going to try and work together, get that extra speed so that they can get away, but it's not going to do a whole lot of good. Shutt brings them back in under braking as they hit turn 1. We've had a couple more drivers pit in the LMP2 class, Josh Lane, Justin Kirby, and it looks like Carter Kundinger can now be counted amongst them as the 02 is looking for his pit stall.
Yeah, looking at him coming in here, trying to find it. It's way down there at the end. Always exciting to enter these long pit lanes and look way down. Fortunately, not a lot of cars in the way. But as we get back out onto track right now, I want to go back, honestly, and take a look at the GT3 field. We've got Ryan Kerr back there still trying to hold on. He's getting attacked by the 42 car. That's going to be Robert Cast. Robert's been making life a little bit difficult for him. They want to open this up. They want to create their own battle for third, I should say Cast wants to create his own battle for third. He's trying to shake Shutt, who's behind him. Now, Shutt is not that far back, only about 3/10. He's got a lot of work to do if he's going to do that. Now, there is the opportunity for these 3 to make a battle as Shutt tries to pull away from Rattray, who is our leader in the GT-AM class.
And by the way, just made a pass on Robertson. Well, it looks like Robertson's going to take it right back, so he puts him back down to 7th in the GT cars. Also, Darling and Olsen have now pitted here, Bill, so that's most of our LMP2 field. We're just waiting on Dan Neese, who actually comes in now.
Ooms just going across pit entrance right now, so he's going to blow by these guys.
Yeah, Olsen was, about 16 seconds back earlier? It was a massive lead.
Olsen rolls out. Darling is going to roll out in 3rd. I don't think he has anybody to worry about in the LMP2s.
Certainly not. Gibson probably going to go past Neese here. Re-inherit 4th place. The gap now steadying between Ooms and Olsen, and I'm seeing about 8.5 to 9 seconds here from P1 to P2 in that prototype class. It's certainly been Jeffrey Ooms' race to lose. He's not been hassled once he broke that slipstream.
Once they decided among themselves who was the fastest and what order they should race in, it's been relatively peaceful.
Well, we see him come onto the oval portion once again and just easily passing on by the slower GT cars. Still waiting on most of them to pit in that GT class. In fact, let me see if anybody has pitted in. Yes, we've had Jimbo Pfeiffer pitting. So that looks like some of our first there, that 00. Going to kick things off. David Perry as well is pitting. And theoretically, based on what we saw, Michael, they can go till about 12 minutes to go, I think, something like that.
Yeah, it'll be time for a splash and dash, depending on how much fuel they were able to save through this. I'm pretty sure everybody went for a full, or that 67% full fuel when they started the race. If we look at their times, how far they got around, and how long they stayed in the pits while they were in that pit stop, I think they are going to do the best they can to run deep into that and then just take a super splash and dash to try to shorten that pit stop time and make that run to the end.
Hey, Joe, let's look at 10th in the GT3's car number 428. Let's give a tip of a hat here to Bradley Haley, an old-time favorite, but not only, he's our top Audi.
Yeah, and he gained 4 positions from the start of this race right now. He is currently 9th actually in the pro class, even though he is 10th in the GT cars.
But the leader in the non-Porsches, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. The non-Porsche class. essentially, here today, the way that it has been going. Second in that non-Porsche class is Ryan Wasilewski. He's 2 positions behind in the 911 car. So he's 11th in the pro class right now. So not doing too badly down there.
But with the 911, does that make him an honorary?
Honorary Porsche, yes.
Yeah,
that's right.
you could argue that, I think.
Look at that McLaren, man. Smiling at you.
Didn't McLaren run Porsche engines, I think, for a little while, I want to say?
I think, way back in F1, I want to say the 80s?
The 80s, I'm pretty certain, something like that.
I think it was
80s or early 90s, yeah.
Yeah, very short stint of Porsche motors in F1. Porsche really focusing more on the prototypes and endurance racing. But yeah, I do recall there was Porsche there for a while.
Well, as we ride on board, looking at Wasilewski, this is Lyon, and then we jump up ahead here, down into the pit lane, actually, looks like.
Atterbury's in the pit.
David Schutt is pitting. Bradley Haley's pitting. Okay. So they could have gone maybe just a little longer if they wanted, but they decided this is as good a time as any to try and take some fuel and finish things out. For those wondering about our leader, though, overall in the GTs, Ross Booth is now extended at about 3 seconds ahead of Shirazi. It's really kind of gone away, unfortunately. We had a bit of an exciting race after that first pit stop, Michael, but after we lost Bidwell and then Shirazi has lost the plot here, it's kind of evaporated.
Yeah, Bidwell was kind of Bidwell was kind of like the rope that was keeping Shirazi close to Booth. Once they lost Bidwell, Shirazi struggled.
Yeah, well, when Bidwell hit the wall, that you have to proceed with caution. You don't know what's going to happen. So Shirazi probably had to back out of that just a little bit and was almost out of range to be able to hold on to that draft. I think I remember it was about 7, maybe 8 tenths, and then you miss a brake zone here, miss a brake zone there. LMP comes through and messes up your line. Well, you kind of have to take what's given to you and hope that the guy you're trying to catch gets a little bit of that LMP love as well. But just didn't happen because Booth is way out there, 3 1/4 seconds out in front of Shirazi right now.
Soup, I'm surprised of all the metaphors you went for where we talk about horsepower, that was the glue that held them together.
Oh, I've missed working with you, Joe.
Still not seeing more of our leaders in the GT class that are pitting in yet. I was kind of watching Cast and Care there since they were still basically right nose to tail, and neither of them pitted. Booth and Shirazi kept carrying on as well. But still, Rattray's up to 6 now. So he's passed some cars once again. Wonder if that's one of our drivers that maybe pitted that gave him a spot. Curious how high exactly he can go in that amateur class.
Almost misclassed, it seems. I don't know if they do a reclassification mid-season, but if I were Robert, I'd be hoping not. I'm happy to take these positions. I'll run way up in the field if I can get away with it.
Yeah, going from a bronze to a silver, I suppose, here at some point mid-season. A lot more of the AM drivers are pitting in this time. I see Luke Schmidt, I think Trent Brown. Yeah, he just finished his pit stop, so he's coming out as well. He's going to be 16th in the GT cars, but it looks like he'll emerge 4th in the amateur class there in that number 7 machine. Apologies to all the AM drivers. I mean, I wanted to cover them more, Michael, but man, it's just been a rout for the most part.
It's been an interesting race. We do have a little cluster
Yeah, cluster of them down there, it seems, in the mid-pack. But it's been so close up at the pros, up at the top of the pro GT cars. It's really been hard to try and get down there to the mid-pack and the AMs to cover them. Oh, and Shirazi is in, so that's second in the GT pros that is pitting. So... and he's going to be followed in by Ryan Robertson. Looks like Robert Rattray. And Nathan Jew, man, slid into his pit stall. He really maximized his pitting there. Jesse Lyon is in. So, yeah, okay, here's a lot of our leaders now pitting. We're waiting on Ross Booth, but he went pretty long last time out. So we expect it'll be a little while for him. Sounds like we had a bit of a battle starting to brew in the prototypes, though, Bill. Dornenberg has Nice getting ever closer.
Now, if you remember, Dornberg started that incredible run early on. 13th, worked his way all the way up to 6th position, and had his teammate Carter Kundinger. They were in it. They were swapping positions. Well, that's Kundinger kind of fell off, but the guy lately who's been very, very steady, a steady pace all race long, not fast early, not slow late, just steady, is Dan Nice. And right now he is chasing Dornberg and he's hunting him down. I would not be surprised if he's just stalking him, waiting to make the move near the end. As I say that now, look at him close with that draft.
Both of them are done with their pit stops, we got to remember, so shouldn't need fuel saving. Hopefully they don't need fuel saving from here, and they're good to go. So does Dan Nice just wait patiently and wait till the end of the race maybe to try and snipe the spot, or does he go early?
Well, we're going to tell right now, he's got to run. If he wants it, he'll take it now. He moves to the outside. And gosh darn it, Joe, I don't... Look, he's got him pinned. Is he going to leave him room?
Yeah. He does leave him room, but you can see the hesitation from Dornenberg. I think he didn't want to risk it. He's going to let him through. So now Dornenberg's strategy has got to be, that was way deep into turn one there for Nice. He could lose the spot back. Dominic could try and fight him here, and he is going to look to the inside down into turn one. He gets a little bit of overlap, but fighting the long way around. Looks like traction's still good for that 14 car, and he will hold the spot. I was going to say, Bill, if you're Dominic, I think now the goal needs to be hold on to that slipstream.
Yeah, I think that's the case. In fact, the pass was made during the twisty section. I was thinking Nice wanted to see if he could pull away. I don't think these guys are that much different in pace that that's going to happen. So even though Nice is out front now, I don't think it's going to matter much. I think these guys are going to stay together most of the way.
By the way, lead in the GT Pros has pitted. Ross Booth is in and out. That leaves Robert Cass, the last of them, that needs to stop in. He was battling for third in the GT Pros, clearly trying to go long here, Michael. And as he comes down into the bus stop section, this battle does here in the LMP2s. They're going to go on by Jimbo Pfeiffer. That's down 21st in the GTs.
There's an old-time name for us.
Absolutely. Got to see him race in the majors last night as well, again here in camel cars, and that was fun to witness. Unfortunately, Jimbo had a late wreck in that one, and his race was compromised. Dominic definitely sticking with it, so I think that was a good call, Bill, that he's got the pace to hold on to him. From now, he's just got to play patient.
Robert Cass coming in GT3. He was currently running second. He was fine. I think that's the final car to make the stops now for that class.
And yeah, Cast actually in the 42. He's in. Yep, Cast is in. Booth is going to inherit the lead right back here, Michael. So now we know the order. It's Booth ahead and Cast, it looks like, going to get overtaken by Shirazi. But the gap between Shirazi and Booth is, man, 6 seconds. This is going to be hard to overcome if you're the 66.
Yeah, 6 seconds is quite the gap at this track. You need to be a little bit closer to take advantage of any level of draft. But yeah, Booth holding his own out front, just kind of sitting there, biding his time, managing the approaching traffic. Again, we come back to traffic. That is what you have to do to be successful at this track.
But the plot thickens. After those pit stops, we mentioned Cast going long. That worked out well. He comes out in third. Robertson is well behind him by about 3 seconds. And then Kerr is trying to keep up with Robertson. Remember, it was Kerr who was sitting in third place. And I wonder if the 42 just sat there and pulled the wool over their eyes by just saving fuel that middle stint sitting behind them, and has now jumped the pair of them.
Yeah, I felt like exactly that is what was going on. He was sitting there watching. He was making little tests here and there, but by and large, just sitting under the wing, biding his time, saving fuel, waiting for it to happen. I can tell you from experience, both in iRacing and real life, you can sit behind another car and turn that fuel down, turn that engine map down, use a whole lot less fuel, but still maintain the pace. And then when you come to that opportunity, turn that power back up and bam, turn it on. It is hammer time.
Michael, when you're in the pit box for that final stop, do you know exactly how much fuel you need, or can you maybe say, I'm going to take just a little bit more to save a little bit of time?
You usually have it calculated down. Well, somebody does have it calculated down pretty good. A lot of people, especially in iRacing, will use different pieces of software that tell you how much fuel you should take on. So acting as your strategist or your crew chief or whatever you like to use. And that can help. Now, I find when I use that software, I always end up getting over fueled. So sometimes I'll go in and it'll say adding 48 liters. I'll click it down to like 44, 45 liters because it always gives me too much.
Well, as we watch this battle right here, this is Dean Kerr that is leading this group, but he is a lap down. Robert Rattray is ahead of Nathan Jew. That said, that is for sixth position in the GT cars, but Rattray is an AM driver and Jew is a pro driver in that 420. So these drivers not technically fighting amongst each other. It's basically for pride here.
Yeah, it is for pride. But I got to say, I've raced against drivers who were silver and bronze rated. And I am a recently demoted silver driver. I was gold and demoted to silver, which is what happens when you get old. And then I've gone and raced against guys who, for whatever reason, are rated as bronze drivers, and they're fast. So nothing against somebody just because they have the A next to their name or are showing up in green. They can be just as fast as a gold driver can any day of the week.
Wait till you get demoted to gray. That's when it really hurts.
I was going to say, because as we watch Robert Rattray gets another overall GT position and move to 6, I've seen some more recent photos than your regular photo, Michael. There's a lot more gray in that beard than what you gave to us.
Yeah, I'm kind of highlighting the gray more than anything else at the moment. And, on top, I just got rid of it all. So, go for the streamline effect.
There you go. Well, it looks like Jew's going to try and get it right back on Rattray. These two fighting hard. That might not be for the same class, but they know that GT pride is on the line, and Nathan is going to have to repass Robert Rattray. He defends successfully into the International Horseshoe, looking for it through the kink. Does Robert once again go defensive? Just kind of holds that middle line as Nathan has to look to the outside and cuts back.
And honestly opens it up beautifully there. That going through the horseshoe at that point, he was able to open up just the tiniest of gaps that I was honestly not expecting, giving the line he took on the entry. That was more of a real world line as opposed to the iRacing line.
Nice stuff there from Nathan. Catching back up now in the slipstream of Robert Rattray in the 33 as the Floridian driver sees his mirrors filled by that white 420. Not close enough down into the braking for the Le Mans chicane. They're coming up on lap traffic, though. That's David Perry in front of them, so that's not for position. This will actually help out with Rattray because he's now going to get a nice tow.
Yeah, and Rattray's stronger coming out of Le Mans. That wasn't the draft that got him stronger out of there. The draft helped afterwards. And this overtaking of the other driver, this is perfect timing for Rattray. This is working with traffic. Ooh! Oh, boy, right behind him, that LMP2 coming through. There was a little bit of interesting use of space, we should say, with our car following him. Jew is having a hard time holding on to that position and almost caught the rear end of that orange and blue car.
It's been frantic stuff, but it's also been frantic up for 6 in the LMP2s as well, Bill. Yep. Dornenberg and Nice have been almost splitting 3 wide situations here as they chase one another.
They did. Now, Dornberg's got back around Nice for now. We saw Nice get around Dornberg. And then last time on the bank section of the track, they had a GT high, they had a GT low, and the two of them went through like toothpaste squirting out of the tube. Good racing going on. They're just having a fun time right now. It gets really serious here in a few more minutes.
Yeah, they've only got 5.5 left to go.
Yeah,
so there's not many laps. Yeah, it's ticking down to it. The first race of the season, and who is going to be able to come out ahead? For Jeffrey Ooms, it's looking like it's all done bar the shouting. He's got 10 seconds over Olsen now.
Boy, Dornberg caught some traffic at the right spot there. He had 3 cars ahead of him, but he makes quick work of them. Michael Johnson was one of those drivers. Give some of these guys we don't talk about. Nicholas Davis, our second in amateurs, was one of those drivers there as they go through.
And they're coming up to a little bit of traffic here that Michael has spotted, our highest in the non-Porsche class. Bradley Haley definitely stuck with some drivers to fight with.
Yeah, Bradley Haley has been holding on to the tail end of Joey Atterbury. Joey's opened it up a little bit. I think the Porsche has a little bit of an advantage coming out of Le Mans, but Haley is one of those people we know is going to do a great job every race. And look at this, coming down into turn 1, trying to defend.
Look at the McLaren go!
3 wide, flame shooting out of the back of that McLaren. 2 wide now, finishing it off. It has been a big jumble. I got to look and see where we are. Flashing lights from our Audi LMS here.
Yeah, that was because he had side-to-side contact with Dornenberg in and amongst that, and I don't think he appreciated that. Nice going to get held up by some of the traffic. Wow, big split between them as he is not as brave as Dornenberg is, just completely blasting through these GT cars. That's going to open the door maybe for Atterbury to go by Payne. No, that's a lapped car, excuse me. So that's not for position. Oh, no. That's forcing a 3-wide situation.
Nice is in a hurry. Yeah.
Oh, no. And Payne, unfortunately, gets a bit of pain there as he gets slammed in the side by Dan.
Wow. Going down low, that's going to draw the ire of the stewards there. You cannot pass on the high oval going below there, even if it's out of class. You really need to wait. They should be treating that as a solid wall.
It's just like old times, Bill. Every single time, it never fails. Everything erupts in Autobahn in the final 10 minutes. I don't know how they do it. Because, here's the thing, Bill. We've also had Paul Gibson pit in. I thought he short-fueled. But what's happened here? Oh, he's got a meatball flag. No, excuse me. I thought maybe he ran out of fuel. But he has had something happen here. Let's see. It looks like we have a replay. Let's see if we can find out what happened. Through the bus stop chicane, and it's that wall again. Ugh.
That wall eats cars. That's one of the most common places for people hit, not just in iRacing, but in real life, coming out of that Le Mans chicane.
Whew, okay, then. Oh, and the battle for second and the GT Pros is on. When did Cast catch Shirazi?
I missed that because I was watching the Atterbury and Atterbury and Lion thing going on, and Haley, that little fracas that was happening. But now let's get back up to the front. We got Shirazi, and with about 3/10 off of his tail, Cast is trying to close it up. Now we've got a little LMP traffic working its way through. Is he going to be able to tuck up under the wing and get a little bit of a pull? Not quite what he was hoping for, but here we go, coming on down into that braking zone to get through Le Mans chicane. He's going to line it up, just get a little bit of that curbing on the inside, then power down, coming on out of there. This is a great opportunity. That is pretty close. Only a quarter second off of him at this point. That is close enough to make that pass before start finish.
And boys, it won't be long until that battle in the LMP2s get there between Dominic and Nice. And you know those guys are hungry. This could get really exciting.
Ooh, there he goes. Pokes his nose out. Going to look around the outside. Cast going to try and outbrake Shirazi down into turn 1. We've already seen this go awry with some drivers trying to go wheel to wheel into this corner, but it looks like Cast is not going to be able to go deep enough. He'll have to give it up. Also, worth noting that it's going to be white flag for Jeffrey Ooms next time by.
And that was a test move right there. I've done that. I will do it again. That is absolutely a test move. He is planning on staying right here until it's the final lap. When that white flag flies, he's going to line up that exact same spot. And next time, he's not going to be 100th of a second behind at start finish. He's going to be 100th of a second ahead.
Dernberg and Nice get through.
That was Young Park that we saw going slow out of the International Horseshoe. Not sure what happened to him. White flag is out for Jeffrey Ooms as he crosses the line. It's a handy 11 seconds, but if anybody wants to make a spot, it's now or never.
Yeah, here he is coming through here. Look, let's take a look at these guys out here on the oval, though. This is another one of those opportunities. Watch as we come down into the braking zone, just timing it right. We're going to see a test. We're going to see yet another test right there. Power down. Now he wants to put that power and close up this gap. That one's going to be really tight. Let's see what happens as they come around the NASCAR 3 and 4, trying to close it up. Ooh, this is going to be tight when they get to start finish.
Yeah, this is the white flag for them. This is Dornenberg versus Nice right here. And Nice has the run. He's going to get around the outside as they cross the line. He's got a nose ahead, but he's still on the longer route. Down into the braking as they approach the lap traffic, wheel to wheel. Nice gets fed out. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Ooms is already coming up to the Le Mans chicane. He just has this one braking event to go, and that is it.
Oh, gets stuck a little bit behind some lap traffic there, but he's going to take the high line on the way around. We're going to watch him come through NASCAR 3 and 4, heading his way around to that start-finish line for the finish of the race.
Jeffrey Ooms put it on the pole, and he's going to have to weave his way through the traffic to take the checkered flag here for the first round of Season 12 in Autobahn.
And Shirazi now has got around Cast.
Ooh, so a change for second as they still need to get to the line. Dornenberg is ahead of Nice currently as they are on the oval. Dan could still take this position. Olsen, by the way, took second. Paul Darling is just crossing to complete the podium in the prototypes, but who is going to wind up in fifth?
Booth now into Le Mans. He's looking to get the checkered flag.
And yeah, he's going to be behind these two. This is a very good run from Nice. It's going to be hard for Dornenberg to fight this. Good run up and around the outside. He's got the momentum. Oh, he starts to lose out. Is that Dan Nice out of fuel? He's out of fuel. Dornenberg is going to take fifth place in the end. Behind them, Ross Booth is going to run away with the win to start his challenge to retain that championship in the 03.
And look at second place. You got to race to the flag. They go.
Coming wheel to wheel. It's not over. They hold on to it. Who's it going to be at the line? They cross, and it's Shirazi. Shirazi in second. Cast is going to wind up in third.
Wow, margin of 0.016. I was telling you, you got to test that every single time. And if I'm the guy in the lead who's being tested, I'm going to maybe do a 99% throttle as we come around there just to give them some bad data. But here we are. That one more run victory lap through the final chicane there at Le Mans.
That's pretty much all of our finishers. So Shirazi's little contact there, I wonder if that saved him there with Cast, because that interrupted his momentum. And double checking to see if we've got a break here before we head off to the results from our producer. Sounds like, yes, indeed, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back after this with the results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. The first round of the Autobahn Sports Car Challenge went to Jeffrey Ooms, taking victory from pole. Eventually, once he was able to break the slipstream from those behind, it basically was his. And Nathan Olson did make as good of a run as he could and finished second, about 12 seconds back. Paul Darling with a bit of a quiet third to round out the podium. Billy Smith managed fourth with Dornenberg. What a fight that was there at the end. He finished fifth place ahead of Dan Neese as Carter Kundinger wound up in seventh. It was Mo Islam in P8 and Josh Wolf ninth. And it was Leif Peterson rounding out your top 10. The last one on the lead lap. Josh Lane finished 11th with Justin Kirby 12th and Sherburne 13th. Paul Gibson, unfortunately, a DNF, the first of the DNFs, and all those behind him, the LMP2s, Tinsey, Kopkar, and Bow also did not finishes today. Michael?
Looking at our GT fields, it started 19th, ended up 15th in the ranking, but first in class, that's going to be Ross Booth. Beautiful run there at the end, opening up quite the gap over Johan Shirazi, who was second in class. Robert Cast in third, Ryan Robertson fourth, and Ryan Kerr in fifth. Now, the first of our AM class in GT, that's going to be Robert Rattray. Beautiful job showing how those amateurs can really pull it up there at the end.
Nathan Jew was next in line with Jesse Lyon. Then we get to our McLaren. How about Ryan Wilczewski got that one ahead of the Audi of Bradley Haley. Mitchell Johnson was next with Nicholas Davis, our second amateur. Joey Atterbury, third podium, final podium spot for the amateurs goes to Trent Brown. I'll take a couple more, Joe. Luke Schmidt, another amateur after that with Eric Thomas. Joe?
Yeah, after Eric Thomas, we get to Shane Hunter once again in that amateur class with Scott Angelo in 33rd overall. Ian Simon finishing 34th. Jimbo Pfeiffer, unfortunately, having to finish a little far down today as well, 35th. Sheldon Rosenbaum, P36 with Chad Dick, 37th, and David Perry, 38th. And you get to Dale Green and Jake Higson. Franco Margarella wound up 41st. You've got Chad Nobles 42nd and James Stacy 43rd. Young Park had trouble at the end that we're not sure what caused that. Boyd Payne was behind him in 45th. Patrick McDaniel was 46th, and then it was Dean Kerr in the 47th position. From there on down, you have DNFs, unfortunately, all the way down. And it does look like we've got our winner in the GT Pros ready to talk to us. Michael, you have Ross Booth with you.
Indeed, I do. Ross, it seemed like almost a lonely race once your little peloton you had out there got kind of split up by a little incident with the wall, and you just took off. Was that exactly how you planned it? You planned that he was going to hit the wall there?
No, I never like to see someone lose it like that coming out of the bus stop, but that's sort of what I needed to break the draft from Johan there. And then once that happened, it was sort of smooth sailing from there. But up to that point, that was an insane race between Cam, David Shutt was up there, Johan, and I think there was quite a few others too. We were like a big choo-choo train.
So once that happened, what was your plan to open that gap up? You seemed like you had things well under control, and it was just, I'm going to do this here. How did you make that gap open up for yourself?
Well, in the first stint with Cam leading, I was able to save quite a bit of fuel behind him, almost a full lap extra fuel compared to him and Johan. So I knew on the last pit stop, I'd at least have a lap of gas saved so that I would get that advantage in the pit. So even if he was on my bumper going into the last pit stop, I would have gapped him a little bit there just due to I needed less gas than they did. And that's how it sort of played out.
Yeah, so you opened up a nice little gap there at the end, opening it up enough where you almost didn't need to worry about it. It seemed like just a drive home. The only trouble you could have had would have been traffic. So how was traffic part of the play today for you?
It was really pleasant, actually. The LMP2 guys did an awesome job showing their nose and deciding on when they were going. I didn't have any trouble with any of the LMP2, and even the slower GT AM guys did an awesome job holding their line and being predictable while we were navigating around them.
Well, beautiful race today, or this evening, I should say. Who do you have to thank for this victory?
Big shout out to Composite Performance. It's our first look, our first outing here in Autobahn, newly formed team, and to have two cars on the podium, myself and Robert Cast, is an awesome. So big shout out to him, and shout out to everyone else, and big shout out to Carter for bringing back Autobahn. I think we're at a full field tonight, so I'm really excited for the races to come.
Well, thanks for putting on a great show. That was Ross Booth, our winner in the GT Pro class. But speaking of those slower, not really, amateur drivers in the GT class, I think we've caught up with Robert Rattray.
Well, I thought we did, and we seem to have lost him. In the meantime, it looks like Bill has caught up with Carter Kundinger, who wound up 7th in the LMP2 class.
Carter, a little farther down the finishing order than I expect you to be, but it was exciting. You were racing with your teammate for a while.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was not the ideal start. I just had like a loss of concentration, and I cut right coming out of one, got in the grass, and then I cut left, and I ended up just smoking the pit wall. So it's not my finest moment. It definitely gave me some damage, but it was enough to keep up. And yeah, I mean, I had a fun battle with Dominic for a while, and eventually just kind of figured out, okay, you're faster, I'll just stay behind you. And then, I had Dan behind me for most of the second stint. I kind of figured he was fuel saving, but I was also a bit confused because he was pretty clearly faster than me, so I didn't really know where he was going. But I mean, honestly, for having a damaged car, not really being the most ideal of races, I will take a 7th any day, especially in this field.
Help me understand the advantage of fuel saving when the window is so small anyway. Were you going full speed the whole time? I mean, what's your strategy?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're behind GT traffic, I definitely try and save, but just with me and my damage, like I wasn't really able to keep up in the draft with anyone. So I was kind of going full out, which I knew, especially during that second stint when Dan was following me, like I knew he was going to come out of the pits ahead of me. He was going to be able to save enough fuel. But yeah, I mean, really, it was just kind of, getting a damaged car to the end. And, I definitely came into this race not super confident with the car. I knew I was about a couple tenths off the fast guys. So definitely tonight's goal was survival. And I think I did a pretty darn good job doing it.
Indeed. I know you're involved in the management of the series. I think when you take a look back at this on a replay, you're going to be pleased with the racing overall. It was really entertaining and relatively clean.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, just like me, myself, and probably the other 59 people that did the race tonight, we're all excited for Autobahn to come back. It is just so much fun. It's always fun to have full fields. It always feels good as a series admin to have a full field, because that means you're doing something right when you have,
Yep.
I mean, it's full, and even we had a couple people knocking on the door waiting to come in, and I unfortunately, iRacing can only hold 60 cars, so I gotta definitely send out my apologies to those that just couldn't make it in. I'm gonna try and figure out a way to make it so that their hours of practice that they put in for this race doesn't go to waste.
Congratulations. Well, opening night, and we'll see you down the road.
Yeah, we'll do. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Carter Congdiner, 7th tonight. Joe?
Well, sadly, it looks like we're not going to get to talk to Robert Rattray as he's not showing up. So a bit sad. I was eager to get to talk to him and about that battle he had at the end there with Nathan Jew, because that was certainly exciting stuff. In the meantime, though, we do want to give a big thank you to the community here at the Autobahn series for bringing us on for a season of coverage, but also a thanks to the team today, Michael, Soup, and Zach. The next race, as we mentioned, is going to be at the Red Bull Ring, November 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern. So tune in for that. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.